So for our assessments, we decided to do 2 short-term and 1 midterm to assess students' learning and progress. So if you take a look over here, first we have the short-term assessment. This teacher will read aloud this article about a fisherman and the magic fish to the students, and then they will follow along as the teacher reads. Students will then independently complete a main idea graphic organizer or a main idea map in order to identify the main idea and supporting details. The teacher will circulate throughout the classroom to complete the checklist in order to collect data, and the teacher will circle around and use this checklist to the right, a nonfiction summary checklist, to identify what the students are grasping and what they are not. Then we have the short-term assessment number 2. Students will learn about what makes a guide go sticky. They will read this independently and will use a graphic organizer to write down the main idea of the article and add in 3 supporting details with text evidence. Teachers will be collecting this to look and see if the evidence is stated correctly from the text. They will then be using a rubric to assess the students. And for the rubric, it is on a scale from 1 to 4. This rubric helps the teacher determine what skills the student still needs assistance in. So for a score of 1, the student attempted to identify the main idea. However, the main idea may be stated incorrectly or not really cover all aspects of the reading. Student also included no to little detail or irrelevant facts that did not support the main idea. For a score of 2, the student identified the main idea and included 1 to 2 supporting details, but much of the response is copied directly from the text and not put into the student's own words. A 3, a student identifies the main idea correctly and includes many supporting details. There is some error, though, with connecting those details to the main idea or stating irrelevant text evidence. And a 4 would be the students clearly and accurately identified the main idea. They include relevant supporting details from the text into their own words. The last assessment we came up with was the midterm assessment. This is to assess one of the strategies we taught about using races to help find the main idea. So the student will read this article independently about some countries and people who live in those countries. They will complete the races graphic organizer to identify the main idea and support 3 to 5 details. This also will help them to organize their written response that will come next. So for the assignment, once they have completed the graphic organizer, students will be asked to write a rating prompt to answer this question. After reading from many places, write 1 paragraph response summarizing the text. Be sure to include the main idea and 3 to 5 supporting details, and use the RACE format to help organize your rating. Check for punctuation and grammar. And once they have completed this, the teacher will grade the graphic organizer and the writing response based off of this rubric. So this rubric is broken down into the RACES format. So there's a scale from 4 down to 1 for this score on the writing piece, and it is also broken down by the 5 aspects of RACES format. So the first one for the restate, they will get a 4 if they restated correctly with no errors, a 3 if they correctly restated the question but there are little errors and extra information thrown in there, 2, they incorrectly restated the question, and 1, there was no restate at all. Then the teacher will look at the next section of their rating to answer the A part, which is answer the question carefully. Correctly answer all parts of the question and demonstrate a full understanding of the task to get a 4. Students who incorrectly answered most parts of the question would get a 3. Answered the question but answer was unclear, they got a 2, and they would receive a 1 if they did not answer the question at all. Then we go into the C and E part of races. This is where students were citing evidence from the text and then explaining why they chose that evidence to support their answer. And then at the bottom of this rubric, just a simple check for capitalization and punctuation. And teachers may see that when grading their students' responses that they may be a 3 or a 4 in restating and answering the question, but are a 2 in citing and explaining. So a teacher will use the average of the scores to come up with a total score. They could either take the average or they could add them together. This also allows the teacher to see which sections of the rating piece students need to work on. This breaks it down into finding the main idea, finding evidence, and explaining in your own words. So it really allows the teacher to break down the students' thinking and see where they went wrong and where they need extra support.